There's something about Capricorns that's impossible to ignore. They walk into a room and carry this quiet confidence. Not loud, not showy, just grounded. You can sense they've got goals, deadlines, and 5-year plans swimming in their minds, even while making small talk. They're not trying to impress you. They're trying to build something real. And that's exactly why where they choose to be matters so much. For Capricorns, space isn't just physical. It's strategic. They're not drifting through life, looking for vibes or chasing chaos. They want environments that support focus, growth, and results. Places that don't just look good on Instagram, but feel right deep down. Think about the Capricorns in your life, or maybe you are one. Ever notice how easily they get frustrated in cluttered, noisy places? Or how they seem to relax the moment they're somewhere calm and structured? That's not by accident. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, the planet of discipline and order. So while other signs might crave adventure or spontaneity, Capricorns crave purpose. They're drawn to environments that make sense, that offer clarity, that help them get one step closer to who they're trying to become. And when you understand that, suddenly the choices they make, the jobs they take, the friends they keep, the way they set up their desks, it all clicks. So today, we're stepping into the Capricorn mindset. We're exploring the 6 places where this sign feels most at home, not just physically, but energetically. These aren't just hangouts, they're launch pads, power zones, sanctuaries for the goal-obsessed. And we're starting with a space that screams success, control, and just the right amount of status. For Capricorns, it's the ultimate environment to think big and execute even bigger. Number 1, the corner office with a view. Let's talk about something that lives deep in the Capricorn soul, even if they've never said it out loud. The craving for control, calm, purposeful control. Not the loud, aggressive kind, not the kind that needs to dominate a room or silence others. Capricorns want mastery, not power plays. They want to build something that stands the test of time. They want to walk into a space and feel like they own their moment, like their mind has room to stretch, to build, to lead. That's why, if you had to create the perfect Capricorn habitat, it would look a lot like the corner office with a view. Picture it, high up in a building that touches the clouds. Walls of glass showing a city below. Busy, alive, but distant enough to feel like it's under control. The door shuts softly. Silence, no clutter. Just a sleek desk, a perfect chair, and that view. You don't hear chaos here. You hear your thoughts. You see possibility. You feel capable. That's what a Capricorn lives for. Because for this sign, space isn't just where they are, it's who they are. The corner office isn't about ego. It's not about, look what I have. It's about alignment. Alignment with ambition, with structure, with identity. That view, it's not just pretty. It's proof that the climb was worth it. That the all-nighters, the discipline, the internal pressure, they meant something. They got here, but let's go deeper. The reason this kind of space resonates with Capricorns runs straight through their astrological DNA. Saturn, their ruling planet, is the cosmic father figure of the Zodiac. It teaches hard lessons. It demands consistency. It rewards long-term effort. So when a Capricorn enters a place that reflects back discipline, elegance, and status, they feel seen. Finally, after grinding in silence, they walk into this room and it says, you belong here. And it's not just about work, it's about worth. The corner office is a metaphor. It's the internal space they've always been building. The place where every piece of their character, responsibility, focus, patience, finally fits into a bigger picture. It's where they breathe easier because they're surrounded by the results of their own integrity. But there's another layer, one that doesn't always get talked about. Capricorns don't just love the corner office, they need it, or something like it. Because under that stoic, goal-driven surface is a person who often feels like the world is asking them to carry too much, to always be strong, to always be right, to always have a plan. That kind of pressure needs a counterbalance. And this space, this quiet, powerful, uncluttered room with a view, it's their release. It's where they don't have to prove anything. It's already proven. There's a peace in that. A peace in knowing that you've earned your space, that you don't owe anyone noise or drama or explanations. Just focus, just vision, just results. That's why Capricorns don't crave applause, they crave clarity. And this kind of space, clean, elevated, intentional, gives them that clarity. It reflects back who they are when they're not being pulled in a million directions. And honestly, if we all had a little more Capricorn in us, we'd understand the value of protecting our mental space like this. The corner office isn't just a room, it's a philosophy, a way of living where distraction gets cut, where effort gets channeled, and where purpose gets the front seat. You know the kind of environment I'm talking about? Even if it's not literal, you've probably felt it in your own way. That moment when you step into a space that supports your bigger self, that clears the noise, that sharpens your thinking. That's what we're talking about here. Capricorns don't want to be above anyone, but they do want to be above the nonsense, the drama, the disorganization. That's why they gravitate toward high places, physically and metaphorically. They like altitude, distance, perspective, because when they can see the big picture, they can lead. And Capricorn was born to lead. So yes, give them the corner office, with the window, with the skyline, with the silence. Let them sit in that chair, open their laptop, sip that coffee, and plan 10 years ahead. That's not just comfort, it's freedom. And Capricorns don't take freedom lightly. They earn it. But of course, not every Capricorn has, or even wants, a literal office in a skyscraper. Some might be freelancers working from home, creatives plotting their next move from a studio, or students working towards something bigger. What matters isn't the exact location. What matters is the feeling the space gives them. Peaceful, professional, powerful. Because when you give a Capricorn the right environment, you unlock their best self. They're not flashy, they're not loud, but they are relentless. And that kind of quiet power, it doesn't need to announce itself. It just needs space to grow. And speaking of space, there's another one that holds a special place in every Capricorn's heart. It's not high above the city. It's not filled with glass and chrome, but it's just as sacred, just as inspiring. And in a lot of ways, it's where their mental climb truly begins. Number 2, a bookstore or library. There's something sacred about silence, the kind you find tucked between shelves of old books, the kind that smells faintly of paper, ink, and possibility. For Capricorns, that silence isn't emptiness. It's fuel. It's space for their mind to breathe and build. That's why a bookstore or library is more than just a quiet corner to them. It's a sanctuary, a strategy room, a portal into deeper understanding. While others walk into a bookstore for a casual browse or to kill time, a Capricorn walks in with purpose. They're not just looking for inspiration. They're researching, studying, planning. Every shelf is a treasure map, every spine a potential blueprint for their next project, their next career move, their next reinvention. Capricorns love structure, and few places in the world offer it so beautifully as a library. Rows of categorized knowledge, systems, order, a world where information lives in its proper place, and where curiosity is quietly rewarded. That kind of order speaks to the deepest part of the Capricorn soul. But it's not just about intellect, it's also about solitude. In a world that never stops talking, a library offers an escape from the noise. And Capricorns, who carry the weight of expectations and responsibilities everywhere they go, need that escape. They need somewhere they don't have to lead or fix or prove, somewhere they can just be, quietly absorbing wisdom that strengthens their inner world. If you spot a Capricorn in a bookstore, they're probably camped out in the non-fiction section. Personal finance, leadership, history, psychology. They gravitate toward books that ground them, that teach real skills and uncover real truths, that help them build. But here's the twist. Capricorns don't just read to know, they read to apply. Every page they turn is one step closer to mastery. One more tool for the toolkit. They're not racing through the latest trend or getting lost in escapism. They're sharpening themselves, slowly, steadily, like always. And don't underestimate the emotional side of it. Capricorns might not always show it, but they feel deeply. Books are often their quiet companions, their safe places. The right sentence at the right time can shift their entire mindset, can renew their faith in themselves when they're tired, can challenge them when they feel stuck, can help them process things they'd never say out loud. It's why they return to these spaces again and again, not just for knowledge, but for grounding, for clarity, for connection to something that doesn't demand anything from them, that simply waits for them to show up and open the next page. And even aesthetically, bookstores and libraries just feel like Capricorn energy. The muted tones, the calm lighting, the quiet buzz of focus, the subtle sense that something important is happening, even if no one is saying a word. That's exactly how Capricorns operate, behind the scenes with intent, building something you won't understand until it's already done. So it makes perfect sense that when the world feels too loud or too fake, Capricorns seek out this kind of space. A quiet room full of facts, insight, and ideas is more energizing to them than any loud party or networking event. Here they're in their element, surrounded by tools, surrounded by truth. And let's not forget, Capricorns are lifelong learners. They don't believe in arriving, they believe in evolving, always. So the idea of walking into a place where there's always more to explore, more to master, that's irresistible. Whether it's a dusty corner of a used bookstore or the clean rows of a university library, the feeling is the same. This is where growth begins. Even their body language shifts in these spaces. Shoulders relax, eyes focus. There's no pressure to perform, just a quiet invitation to dive deeper into whatever they are chasing. And whether they walk out with a stack of books or just one idea, they leave more anchored than when they arrived. Because for Capricorns, peace doesn't come from stillness. It comes from progress. And in a library, progress whispers. It doesn't shout. It unfolds slowly, page by page, perfectly aligned with Capricorn's natural rhythm. But of course, the Capricorn journey isn't only about absorbing knowledge. It's also about environments that reflect their internal sense of refinement, dignity, and ambition. Sometimes they want a little luxury with their focus, a little style with their solitude, which brings us to the next place they can't resist. Number 3, a luxury hotel lobby. Let's get one thing clear. Capricorns aren't flashy. They don't chase labels or fall for hype, but they absolutely appreciate quality. They notice when something is built well, run smoothly, and presented with quiet elegance. And that's why you'll often find them gravitating toward a very specific kind of space, the luxury hotel lobby. Not the noisy, tourist-packed kind. No, they're drawn to the refined ones, the lobbies that feel like sanctuaries, with high ceilings, clean lines, soft lighting, and the low murmur of efficiency happening all around. These are spaces that whisper status, not scream it. And that subtle difference, that's exactly what speaks to Capricorn. You see, Capricorns aren't looking to impress anyone but themselves, but they do like to be in places that reflect the level of excellence they're striving for. A luxury hotel lobby feels like entering a different frequency. The air smells better. The energy is calmer. People move with intention. It's like the entire space is designed to say, this is where things happen. This is where people with vision pass through. For a Capricorn, that matters. They'll sit on a plush chair by the window, laptop open or journal in hand, observing the room with quiet admiration, noticing how the staff never miss a beat, how the architecture was clearly designed with purpose, how the vibe is both professional and personal, polished but never cold. Because what they're really doing in that moment isn't just people watching, they're studying. Capricorns are naturally observant, and environments like this feed their hunger to understand how success is built, how it moves, how it dresses and speaks and holds itself. A luxury lobby is like a living case study, and they're always ready to learn. But it's not just about ambition, it's about alignment. Being in that space reminds them of who they are and who they're becoming. It validates the long nights, the meticulous routines, the self-imposed pressure. It tells them, yes, this is the world you're working toward, and yes, you belong here, even if they're just sipping a coffee. There's also something deeply soothing to a Capricorn about systems that work, and luxury hotels are full of that. The smooth check-ins, the perfectly timed service, the unspoken rules of behavior that everyone seems to follow. It's a controlled, respectful environment, and Capricorns thrive in that kind of order. In a way, it gives them a break from having to create structure themselves. For once, someone else has already thought it through. Someone else has already made it work, and all they have to do is step into it. For a sign that's always leading, always planning, always managing, that's a gift. But don't mistake this preference for luxury as superficial. Capricorns couldn't care less about hollow prestige. They're not here for overpriced nonsense. They're here because the environment matches their energy. Intentional, refined, grounded. And the lobby, more than the hotel room itself, is their favorite part. It's not private, but it's not chaotic either. It offers just the right balance of solitude and observation. It lets them feel connected without being overwhelmed. It gives them space to think, to plan, to center themselves. A Capricorn might spend hours in a lobby like this and never speak to anyone. They don't need to. Their mind is already busy. They're reviewing the past week. They're outlining the next one. They're reflecting, recalibrating, refueling. And if you catch them there, you'll notice a shift. Their shoulders ease. Their breathing slows. They feel at peace, not because they're escaping life, but because they've stepped into a space that reflects how seriously they take it. And here's the beautiful irony. For all their independence, Capricorns feel most at ease when they don't have to carry the world alone. And in a place like this, they don't. Everything's handled, everything's in its place, just like they like it. Even the details matter to them. The weight of the coffee cup, the design of the marble floors, the warm greeting at the front desk. None of it is random. Someone thought about these things, and Capricorns respect that, because that's how they live their own lives. Always thinking 10 steps ahead, always working behind the scenes to make something better. So when they are in a space that was clearly built with vision and care, they feel understood, they feel seen, not in a loud, look-at-me way, but in a way that says, this was made for people who value substance. But even in this polished calm, Capricorns aren't just resting, they're absorbing, downloading ideas, thinking about how they can bring this level of intentionality into their own world, into their home, their projects, their business. A luxury hotel lobby doesn't just impress them, it inspires them. They're imagining possibilities, taking mental notes, asking themselves, how do I elevate my space like this? How do I create this same feeling of excellence in my own world? Because for Capricorns, the external world always feeds the internal one. When they sit in a space that feels elevated, it lifts them too. It sharpens their thinking, strengthens their vision, reminds them that the life they want isn't about luck, it's about effort, patience, and knowing where you belong. And they do belong here. Even if they didn't grow up with this kind of environment, even if it took years to step into it, they were always aiming for it. That's the Capricorn way. Quiet progress, relentless effort, showing up again and again, until one day they look around and realize they've built something solid, something lasting. So yes, give them the calm elegance of a 5-star lobby. Let them sit quietly among the ambitious, the refined, the disciplined. Let them take it all in and walk away with more than they came for. Because they always do. But as much as Capricorns thrive in polished environments, there's another space that pulls them in just as deeply. One that's raw, grounding, and humbling. A space that speaks to their earth sign core. A place where every step forward feels earned. Where the climb is literal and the reward is perspective. Number 4, a mountain trail. Capricorns are often described as the climbers of the Zodiac, and not just metaphorically. While their ambitions and life goals are usually front and center, there's something about a literal climb that speaks straight to the soul of this sign. That's why, when they really need to reset, when they're searching for something beyond noise, beyond success, beyond structure, many Capricorns will find themselves pulled toward the mountain trail. It makes sense if you think about it. Capricorn is symbolized by the sea goat, a mythical creature with the body of a goat and the tail of a fish, representing both ambition and depth. The goat half, that's the one that climbs, that scales cliffs, navigates tough terrain, and never stops until it reaches the peak. That part of Capricorn doesn't just enjoy a mountain trail, it belongs there. To the outside world, hiking might just look like exercise or a weekend pastime. But for Capricorn, it's almost spiritual. It's where their inner world finally has room to breathe. The grind of daily life fades into the background. The noise of expectation softens. Out here, in nature, on steep paths and rocky switchbacks, Capricorn gets to exist on their own terms. And let's be honest, no one hikes like a Capricorn. They don't complain about the incline. They don't lose focus halfway up. They don't quit when it gets hard. Instead, they enter a zone, one foot in front of the other, quiet, steady, determined. The trail is the perfect metaphor for how they approach everything, with discipline, endurance, and quiet resolve. But there's more to it than just the physical challenge. Capricorns often carry a deep internal pressure, a sense that they must always be producing, delivering, proving. Hiking, especially in solitude, is a way to silence that inner critic, to replace mental tension with breath, movement, and presence. Every step is like a release. Every turn of the trail, a new opportunity to reconnect with what truly matters. And then there's the view. No Capricorn climbs for nothing. They want results. They want to see the fruits of their labor. And when they finally reach that overlook, when the trees part and the land spreads out below them, something shifts. It's not just about the beauty, it's about the perspective, the distance, the clarity. Looking out from the top of a trail reminds them why they work so hard. It reconnects them with their long view, the one they carry internally at all times. Because for Capricorn, life isn't about quick wins or temporary highs. It's about the summit, the legacy, the meaning behind the climb. And standing on a mountain reminds them, you are not lost, you are not late, you are simply in the middle of your journey. Even their solitude on a hike isn't loneliness, it's fuel. Capricorns often recharge by being alone, not to escape people, but to reconnect with themselves without distraction. On a mountain trail, there's no one asking for deliverables, no one critiquing their progress. It's just them, the earth, and their breath. And in that simplicity, they often find the clarity they were chasing all along. And let's talk about the terrain itself. Capricorns don't fear rough paths. If anything, they respect them. Because difficulty means meaning. Challenge equals growth. So the uneven steps, the muddy stretches, the sharp inclines, they don't deter Capricorn. They mirror Capricorn. Capricorns know life isn't smooth. They don't expect it to be. What matters to them is whether or not it's worth it. And a good hike, a hard trail, that's always worth it. In fact, if you told a Capricorn that the path was too steep or too remote or too difficult, they'd probably lace up their boots faster. Not because they need to prove anything, but because they're built for the climb. Emotionally, mentally, physically, that's where they thrive. It's not uncommon to find a Capricorn hiking alone. Not because they don't enjoy company, but because sometimes they need space where no one is watching, where no one expects anything from them, where they can set their own pace. In a world that constantly demands they be on, the trail is the one place where they get to just be. And it's not always about the summit. Sometimes it's the rhythm of the walk, the sounds of the forest, the smell of pine and earth. Capricorns as earth signs feel grounded, literally and emotionally, when they're in nature. Being away from screens, from cities, from constant noise, allows their nervous system to reset, to remember that they are not machines, that rest, silence, and stillness are not luxuries, they're necessities. Nature has rules too, cycles, systems, and Capricorn respects that, because unlike human chaos, the forest makes sense. The mountain doesn't lie. It's honest, demanding, and generous to those who respect its challenge. That's Capricorn's love language in a nutshell. Even how they prepare for the hike tells you everything about who they are. Their gear is practical. Their backpack is organized. Water, snacks, first aid, everything in its place. Capricorns are planners and they don't step into the wild without thinking ahead. But once they're out there, they don't rush. They pace themselves, they track their progress, and they enjoy the solitude, not as an escape, but as a strategy. Because here's the truth, most Capricorns don't want out of life. They just want space to think, to breathe, to return stronger. A mountain trail gives them that space without needing to ask for it. It doesn't care about their deadlines. It doesn't need them to be anything but present. And when they return from a hike, there's a quiet transformation, a weight lifted, a purpose renewed. They step back into their world with sharper focus, deeper gratitude, and a calmer heart. That's why they go back, again and again. The trail becomes a part of their rhythm, a checkpoint between chaos and clarity, a reminder that their goals are not out of reach, they're just further down the path. But of course, not every Capricorn retreat involves dirt and boots. Sometimes they return to something even more intimate, more personal, a place where productivity meets privacy, where structure and solitude blend, a space they've built with their own hands, tailored to their own workflow. Number 5, their home office Capricorns don't just work from home, they build empires there. To anyone else, a home office might seem like a convenience, a place to send a few emails in peace or squeeze in a Zoom call between errands. But for a Capricorn, it's something far more sacred. Their home office is a command center, a workshop for dreams, a fortress of productivity. It's where their ideas turn into plans and their plans turn into progress. Let's be clear, this isn't about aesthetics for aesthetics' sake. Sure, a Capricorn might have a beautifully organized desk, a well-curated bookshelf, and a coffee mug that practically screams CEO in training. But the vibe goes beyond visuals. It's about intention. Every item in the room has a function. Nothing is random. And the moment they enter, something in them shifts. They're not just at home anymore. They're in their zone. Capricorns crave order, not because they're control freaks, but because chaos blocks their vision. When everything is in its place, their mind can stretch. When the environment supports focus, their energy doesn't get wasted on decision fatigue or distractions. The room works with them, not against them. That's what makes it so powerful. And for a sign that's constantly balancing multiple roles, leader, provider, planner, fixer, the home office is often the one space where they don't have to perform for anyone else. It's not about impressing a boss. It's about answering to themselves, the goals they've set, the values they live by, the standards they hold themselves to, even when no one is watching. Because Capricorns always hold themselves accountable. That's why their workspace feels almost sacred. It's not just a room, it's a mirror, a physical reflection of their inner discipline. The calendar on the wall, the notes on the whiteboard, the structure they impose on their day. It all reveals a deeper truth. Capricorn doesn't wait for permission to build. They start where they are, with what they have, and they don't stop until something solid exists. There's also a deep emotional layer to this. A Capricorn's home office isn't just about work, it's about safety. It's a space they've created on their own terms, a place where they get to choose the energy, the noise level, the level of access. In a world that often pulls them in a million directions, their office is one place they can retreat to without losing momentum. And let's not forget, Capricorns rarely ask for help. They carry burdens quietly, and they often prefer to figure things out alone. The home office is where they do that, where they wrestle with decisions, sketch out plans, and talk themselves through fear. The room becomes a partner, a container, a coach that never leaves. It's also where their inner world becomes tangible. You might find lists taped to the wall, sticky notes with power phrases, a vision board tucked behind the monitor, a drawer full of notebooks with pages and pages of strategies, reflections, numbers, and next steps. This isn't performative. No one's meant to see it. It's for them, and only them. Because if there's one thing Capricorns value above almost everything else, it's self-respect. And when they invest in their space, they're really investing in that respect. They're saying, my time matters, my energy matters, my ideas deserve a room where they can thrive. Even their routine around the home office speaks volumes. The morning coffee ritual, the way they settle in, The subtle mental switch from home mode to mission mode. They might not even notice how much this space influences their clarity, their confidence, their drive, but it does immensely. And yet, for all the structure and focus, there's also comfort here. Capricorns aren't robots. They're deeply emotional beings, even if they don't always show it. Their home office often contains little things that ground them emotionally. A framed quote that once got them through a hard time. A candle that smells like safety. A playlist that helps them drop into flow. It's not all about logic, it's about support. Because Capricorn is an earth sign and earth needs roots, the home office becomes their grounding space. When life feels uncertain, they can come here. When things get overwhelming, they can sit in this room and reconnect with what they can control. And that control isn't about power, it's about peace. For some Capricorns, the office doubles as a creative studio. It's where they write, paint, design, dream. For others, it's a financial hub. Budget spreadsheets, investment research, career mapping. Regardless of the exact tools, the spirit is the same. This is the place where I shape my future. Even their boundaries around this space are telling. Many Capricorns won't let others just wander in and out, not because they're rude, but because they need to protect the energy, the focus, the intention. A home office for Capricorn isn't just functional, it's personal, deeply personal. And here's the thing, not every Capricorn starts with the perfect office. Some begin at the kitchen table, on a second-hand desk, in a small corner of a shared space. But they make it work. They infuse that little space with their signature discipline and vision until it becomes powerful. Because that's what Capricorns do. They build, slowly, quietly, relentlessly. Eventually, that humble corner might turn into a custom-designed office. And when it does, it won't be an accident. It'll be a reward. The physical manifestation of years of effort. It'll look like success to outsiders, but to Capricorn, it'll feel like home. Because no matter how grand or modest, the true value of a Capricorn's workspace isn't in its size or decor. It's in what it allows them to become, the way it keeps them grounded, focused, and moving forward, even on days when everything else feels uncertain. And when they finally shut their laptop, take off their glasses, and turn off the desk light at the end of the day, they don't just feel tired, they feel aligned, anchored, a little closer to the vision they're always chasing. But Capricorn isn't just about solitude and strategy. They also thrive in environments that stimulate their intellectual curiosity. Spaces where they are surrounded by people who think long-term, who plan deeply, who talk in terms of systems, investments, and impact. That's where we find them next. Number 6, an investment seminar or business conference. When you think of comfort zones, you might imagine something soft, quiet, tucked away from the world. But for Capricorn, one of their true comfort zones looks surprisingly different. It's a conference hall, a neatly scheduled itinerary, a room filled with ideas, plans, projections, and people speaking the language of strategy. Welcome to one of Capricorn's most energizing places on earth, the investment seminar or business conference. Now let's make one thing clear. This isn't about flashy suits, elevator pitches, or networking for clout. That's not what draws a Capricorn in. They're not looking to impress anyone with small talk or inflated titles. They're there for something much more serious. Knowledge, structure, insight, direction. Because Capricorns don't chase shiny objects. They chase stability. And to them, stability doesn't come from luck. It comes from education, from being prepared, from knowing where the world is headed and how to position themselves in it. That's why they walk into these events with notebooks ready, eyes focused, and minds fully open. While other attendees might be scanning the crowd, working the room, or snapping selfies in front of sponsor logos, the Capricorn is already in the first session. Front row, listening, taking notes, absorbing every bit of strategy that could give them an edge. Not in a competitive sense, but in a preparedness sense. Capricorns aren't afraid of the climb. They just want to make sure their steps are smart. Seminars and conferences appeal to their deep need to grow with purpose. It's not just about what's trending, it's about what's sustainable. They'll gravitate toward panels on long-term investment, real estate strategy, scalable business models, or emerging industries with serious staying power. Capricorn doesn't want to be where the hype is. They want to be where the future is. And what they love most isn't the hype or the energy. It's the logic, the numbers, the case studies, the proven paths. Capricorns thrive in rooms where data is being shared, where outcomes are tracked, where hard questions are welcomed, not avoided. This is their language. This is where they come alive. Because for all the ambition that lives inside a Capricorn, they're never comfortable gambling on emotion alone. They want systems, they want frameworks, they want to understand how things work so they can work them. And that's what these spaces offer. A rare chance to gather tools, learn directly from experienced minds, and test their ideas against real-world logic. There's something deeply energizing for a Capricorn in being surrounded by that kind of intelligence. They're not intimidated by smart people. They're inspired by them. A conference full of sharp, seasoned professionals isn't a threat to them. It's a gift. It's a mirror. It shows them what's possible, what's next, and what they need to level up. In fact, they often leave these events with more than just a few key insights. They leave with renewed focus, a refined version of their plan, maybe even a pivot or two. Because one of the most underrated traits of Capricorn is their adaptability. Yes, they love structure, but they'll absolutely change direction. If it leads to something stronger, more efficient, more sustainable, that's why they seek out these environments. They don't go to show off, they go to sharpen. A weekend conference could fuel an entire quarter of ideas. A single speaker might shift the way they approach their business, their money, or their mindset. And Capricorn doesn't take that lightly. They use what they learn, every time. Even the energy of the room speaks to something in them. The sound of people discussing future markets, the quiet confidence of those who've built something from scratch, the deep questions asked during breakout sessions. It's a rare place where Capricorn doesn't feel out of place for being serious, for thinking long-term, or for asking tough questions. Here, they're not too much. They're right on time. And let's talk about how they prepare for these events. Capricorns don't just show up. They do the homework, they know the speakers, they've looked into the topics, they've mapped out the schedule, identified the sessions that matter most, and made room in their day to reflect after each one. It's not rigid, it's intentional. That's how they move. They also don't need to be the center of attention at these events. In fact, they're often the ones observing quietly, forming meaningful connections rather than casting a wide net. Capricorns value depth over breadth, and that applies to networking too. If they walk away with 2 or 3 strong contacts, people with integrity, vision, and clarity, that's a win. They're not trying to collect business cards. They're building alliances. But above all, Capricorn shows up to these places with one thing on their mind: legacy. They're not here for quick wins. They're not here to chase clout. They're here to plant seeds that will grow into something real, something lasting. They want to understand how people built their empires, what mistakes they made, what principles they followed, and how they stayed the course when things got hard, because no one understands hard like a Capricorn. And these rooms are often full of stories, honest, real stories about the grind, about the years before success, about the strategy behind the scenes. These stories don't scare Capricorn, they fuel them. They remind them that they're not alone in their steady, sometimes invisible climb. They remind them that the work does pay off. Even outside the sessions, Capricorns are soaking up insight. The casual hallway conversations, the quick chats during coffee breaks, the small talk that turns into strategy talk. They're always listening, always learning, always filtering everything through the lens of, how does this apply to my mission? And they'll keep those notes too, long after the event is over. Revisit them, highlight them, add them to a project plan. Because again, Capricorns don't just learn, they implement. They don't hoard knowledge, they activate it. It's not just inspiring for them, it's grounding. A business conference or investment seminar feels like home because it affirms something they already know in their bones, that success isn't magic. It's math, it's mindset, it's consistency. But even the most focused Capricorn needs more than strategy alone. At some point, they need to step away from the planning, the numbers, the growth models, and return to something simpler, more reflective, more personal. Because after absorbing all that insight, they'll need a place to process it, to breathe, to slow down just for a moment. That next place, it's where they come back to themselves, where they reconnect with the quiet truth of who they are, what they value, and what truly drives them. So after exploring 6 deeply meaningful spaces, it's pretty clear. Capricorns aren't just people who work hard. They're people who build lives with intention. Every space they gravitate toward reflects a layer of their personality, driven, grounded, thoughtful, and fiercely independent. From the calm authority of a corner office to the intellectual refuge of a bookstore or library, Capricorns are constantly seeking spaces that support their growth, not just professionally, but personally. They don't want distractions. They want environments that challenge them, shape them, and allow them to operate at their full potential. We saw how a luxury hotel lobby gives them a taste of the life they're striving for, a moment of elegance, a pause that says, "You've earned this space." And we watched them climb literal and metaphorical mountains on a trail, pushing through the hard paths to find the view, the clarity they were always chasing. We entered the deeply personal space of their home office, where ideas become plans and discipline becomes legacy. And then we stepped into the strategy-driven energy of a business conference or investment seminar, where Capricorns come alive around people who talk in frameworks and think long-term like they do. These aren't just places. They're extensions of Capricorn's inner world, spaces where they can think clearly, act decisively, and be themselves without having to explain it. And maybe that's what Capricorns want more than anything, to be understood, not through noise or performance, but through quiet action, through their choices, their rituals, their spaces. Because to know where a Capricorn loves to be is to know who they are. They don't need to be everywhere. They don't need the spotlight. But the places they choose, those spaces are intentional, purposeful, built for growth, built for truth, built for peace. And if you ever want to truly connect with a Capricorn, start by noticing where they are when no one's watching. Are they organizing their world at home before sunrise? Taking a long hike to think through a big decision? Absorbing ideas in a quiet corner of a seminar room? That's where the real magic happens. That's where the real Capricorn lives. And now, we'd love to hear from you. Which one of these places do you connect with the most? Are you the type who comes alive in solitude with a book? Or do you thrive in a well-designed, high-level business space? Or maybe you're the trail-hiking Capricorn who clears your mind with every step uphill. Tell us in the comments. We really want to know, because this channel, Secret of the Zodiac, was built not just to talk about the signs, but to connect with the people who live them. That means you, your story, your voice. So go ahead and leave a comment. Not just a word or two, share something real. What's your go-to space when the world gets loud? Where do you feel most like yourself? We're building a space where Capricorn energy isn't just analyzed, it's celebrated. And if you felt seen in this video, if even one part of this resonated with you, then do us a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to Secret of the Zodiac, and don't stop there. Check out our other videos. We go deep into every sign, every season, and every personality layer that astrology reveals. Your engagement isn't just a number to us. It's a sign we're reaching the right people, people like you. And if you really want to support what we're doing here, consider clicking the Super Thanks button. It's a way to donate directly to the channel and help us continue producing thoughtful, high-quality Zodiac content every single day. We're an independent team, no giant network behind us, just passion, research, and a mission to bring you more of what you love. Even a small contribution helps cover the cost of writing, editing, visuals, audio, everything that goes into each episode. It helps us keep this space alive and growing. So if you believe in what we're doing and want to see more, that support means the world. Capricorns understand this better than anyone. When you believe in something, you invest in it. So let's build this community together. One view, one comment, one contribution at a time. Thank you for watching, for showing up, for thinking deeply. This is Secret of the Zodiac, and we'll see you in the next video. But until then, look around your space. Ask yourself, does it support who I'm becoming? If the answer is yes, you're already exactly where you need to be.